We remember. We do remember. A lot of people seem to have forgotten. Every year they kind of remember. I honestly think after 2021, the 20th anniversary of 9/11, I think after that it's pretty done. I think then it's just there won't be a lot of these memorial things, even yearly. It just won't happen anymore.
Well, 2026 will be a big anniversary, I think.
You think?
25 year. It's
25?
It's a classic.
Yeah, that is. 25 is a big one. Well, that's what I think we'll go to the 5s, and then it'll just go to the 10s, and then it'll just disappear altogether. Like we identify December 7th as Pearl Harbor Day.
Do.
But it's and on Hawaii they do lay wreaths and all that. But it's not like a big national thing where people are going, oh, whoa, let's read the names of the sailors and people that were. So I think it'll be relegated to that after a while, which is a shame, but time does fucking march on. There are a lot of, I guess every kid pretty much that's in school right now, in regular, even up to high school, doesn't even know about it.
That's what's crazy, because I was 19 when it happened.
Yeah.
And I remember us driving around smoking pot, and it was crazy because nobody knew what was happening.
Yeah.
Like, gas prices went up was all we knew. Like,
That was it.
It was nuts. And like,
The gas went up.
but it's something that, like, it seems so recent to me.
It really does.
And you realize it was actually a while ago.
It was a long time ago. I'm guessing if you're older, this hair is, I got to do something with it. It's really bothering me. I don't know. If you're older, I think it seems a lot closer than if you're younger. It's just a percentage of life thing, I guess.
Right.
But, I vividly remember being woken up by my girlfriend at the time and her going, because we were doing afternoon drive at WNEW at the time, and my hours were pretty fucking wacky. I'd sleep very late, like they are now, and I'd wake up late, so I wasn't even awake when it first happened.
Right.
I was still in bed, and my girlfriend came in. She goes, "A plane just flew into the World Trade Center." And I was still groggy, and I said something like, "Holy fuck, this is the biggest terrorist event ever." Like it hit me immediately that this was terrorism and not an accident or anything. And then watching the rest of it and the second plane flying in, but I vividly remember it. I mean, I could play back images in my head like it was yesterday.
Oh, I remember waking up, walking downstairs, and my mom was there, and my dad, I think, had passed already. And I just remember looking at it, and I was laughing.
Oh, shit.
But not to be a dick, like, I just thought a plane hit a tower. I was like, what the fuck? Like,
Right, not knowing the gravity of it at this point.
Yeah, and my mom's looking at me, she's like, what the fuck is wrong? And then when the other one hit, I thought the same thing. I'm like, this is an attack. This isn't,
Yeah.
this
it's not
isn't
just
like
two whoopsie-daisies.
Right.
It's not going to happen like that.
And it was horrific in every way imaginable.
Yeah, it goes down. I mean, I'm not stepping out of line here. One of the worst fucking days in American history, and personally to a lot of people.
Well, we didn't
one of the worst days.
We didn't think
Keith?
that it could ever happen.
No. Keith was on what they call the job at the time.
Yeah.
What do you remember about that day?
Well, I was the same thing because I did afternoons as well. And I was sleeping when it first happened, and then my mother called and woke me up. And then I turned on television, I saw it, and I spoke with Ange. And the second one hit, and I just like the biggest thing I remember was, I was going to get leaving. I'm like, I gotta go. I gotta get my partner. And Ange said, I don't want you to go.
Oh wow!
I said, it's my job. I said, I gotta go.
Oof.
And I kind of put that together recently watching Chernobyl, because you know how when they go to the miners in Chernobyl and they're like, we need you to do this.
We need you to go into this radioactive fucking shithole and dig a tunnel.
Right. And in the beginning, like, they're not telling them the truth.
Right.
And especially now, with seeing so many people getting sick and people dying and things like that, you don't, you didn't think about it. Mm-hmm. Like that was my response was, it's my job. Like, I have to go do this. Because, of course, we're not thinking there's
Yeah.
all these, asbestos and all these other things that are in the air that are gonna hurt us. We're just thinking, we got to get in there and we gotta help people, and we gotta get people out.
It's hard to identify how big it is when you're in it at that moment, because you watch movies or even documentaries about it and you're like, holy shit, what were they? And you're thinking like, all right, there's this moment, I got to do this, but you're still just you, and your world is right here, but you're bringing it into this giant situation, and you won't notice till much later how big it was and how dangerous that shit was.
And I woke my partner up. I got to his house and I told him, we jumped in the car, and then all the roads were shut down, and then there was one lane on each parkway that was just for emergency service.
Were they letting people out of the city?
They were letting people out.
Okay.
And to a certain extent, and then they blocked everything off in and out.
That's when people started walking out over the Brooklyn Bridge.
I remember seeing that.
All the bridges.
Because then they shut down everything, and they just had, I don't know if it was at the Queens border. It was probably pretty close to that, where all the highways were shut down except for one lane where they were checking IDs, and then the easiest commute that I've ever had.
Yeah, no shit.
Queens, there was nobody on the road. It was just cops, firemen, emergency service, and stuff like that. And then even when we got in, so once we got to the precinct, and remember, I was next door. That was the first precinct. We were the 6th right next door. Our initial thing was they sent us just out on patrol to go, everyone from the day tour is down there, so we need guys to backfill and do patrol. So you went there and you had, 50 jobs that you had to respond to, and most of them was just bullshit stuff that, people hearing things and additional stuff. But the things I remember from that day, we were driving on Hudson Street, and we were in between our precinct and the World Trade Center, and there was a fireman walking in his gear, walking north. And, this guy was fucking out of it.
Oh, shit.
Was out of it. And, we pulled up, and we were like, hey, man, what can we do for you? What do you need? And he just looked, and he's like, they're all gone. And I'm like, who? And he's like, everybody I was with.
Holy shit.
He was, it was glass. And I'm like, where are you going? And he's like, I'm going to see if they're at the hospital. And we took him and we put him in the car, and we drove him to St. Vincent's Hospital, which was, just big triage in the streets and everything.
I can't imagine. Yeah.
Yeah. And
you couldn't fill that.
Yeah. And then we did some patrol for a little bit. You didn't want to do anything but be there.
Right.
It was killing you not to be there. You were doing, and then we were getting guys beating the shit out of Sikhs and stuff like that. Because if they were going into
turban.
Right, they were going into delis and they were kicking the shit out of Sikhs and stuff like that. And
wow.
That's wrong people.
Yeah.
It was anybody brown, man. They were doing that, all over the country.
And
it was not a good thing.
Yeah, and then eventually we were like, "Fuck it, we're going." And we went down there, and you had a good feeling when you got there, and I had stopped and gotten a mask from a friend of mine at a body shop before I left, a better one,
a real respirator kind of a.
But I don't know.
Really, just an auto body gas mask. Though.
Yeah. I guess it was keeping a certain amount of shit out, but those I'd say the first week or two down there, probably the first week, where they did, bucket brigade, and it was, looking for people. And so I would be here, and then, I'd hand it to Dave, and Dave would hand it to you. And then by probably the 4th or 5th day, there was 17 people in between the three of us.
Oh,
and it was like this. And then I remember saying to my partner, this is a waste of time. We're not going to find anybody. There's way too many people here. And all this heavy equipment was sitting on the side. And you were like, all right, well, sooner or later, this has to just...
They're just going to start digging with the equipment, right? You got to...
it's
reality.
Yeah. I don't really do, and this is probably the most I've spoken about, because I really don't... I don't like memorials. I don't like any of that stuff. We just did some stuff with our volunteer fire department and all that, but I didn't go to any of it. I don't even talk about it. One thing that I don't like to do, I don't like to look at social media this week either. I don't look at Facebook. I don't look And
Even like when people make it about themselves.
no, even just what they post and stuff. But I was just talking to Eric about this, and I mentioned it last night to Ange too. We're so fucking programmed because, let's say you sit down and you check your email, and then I hit that Facebook, like immediately.
Yeah.
Like, after you look at your email, it's like
It's a reflex. Yeah.
and I won't look at it, and I'll just swipe it and I'll close it. But I probably did it 50 times.
Yeah.
I'm consciously trying not to do it, but you're just so programmed.
To go to social media. I know what you mean, though, and you obviously are a lot closer to the actual event than a lot of people, but I don't like looking at the images. I just don't like looking at it.
The falling man.
I know it. I remember it. Shit like that. There's some things. I mean, it's bad enough to just see the actual structure being hit and things like that. Never mind the people involved, and what they had to go through before they died. Like that shit, I just it's upsetting. It's enraging.
Yeah, and like, look, I took all you guys down there at one point or another. Jimmy and you and Opie, and I brought everyone down to.
I never went down there.
I didn't take you.
No,
I took
did
Jimmy,
not want to
took
fucking
Opie,
go down there.
I took Rich Voss.
What about Dice to get his hat? Fucking Dice.
Lighting the smoke.
And I brought people down and stuff, but I mean, after the first couple days, just the smell, like you just think about like Haiti, like what they're going through now too. That smell of death. That's just all around you the whole time.
Yeah,
is just.
It was that and that weird burnt electricity smell that I remember because after a while, a guy, one of the law enforcement guys, gave me a nice placard for my windshield.
I remember,
So I was able to go through the Battery Tunnel to get into work every day. But before that, I was taking the Brooklyn Bridge, and you'd be on the road to get to the Brooklyn Bridge, and you'd see the smoke, you'd smell it. It was there. I remember looking at the side of the road, you would see, like on a fence, chain link fence, all pushed against it from the wind were paperwork from all the offices that were in the trade center that all just blew out. And, somebody was working on this. Here's some of the file cabinets, and all that paper was there. It was just a constant, real visceral reminder of what happened.
Sad.
It was so fucking. I think people know I'm not that emotional of a guy, but it was so tough. There was a memorial thing going on the radio, and they were playing the Battle Hymn of the Republic.
Yeah.
As I was driving to the Brooklyn Bridge, so I look over, I see the fucking pile burning, and the Battle Hymn of the Republic is playing, and I'm just like a disaster driving in my car. It was tough.
It gets you, and like I go for my yearly checkup, and and they send a questionnaire, and there's probably 300 questions like psychological stuff.
Well, you have to have a level of PTSD. There's no way you don't. I mean, just from your job itself.
Like, look, I don't feel I have it. Maybe I have a small bit of it. Like I
think it'd be impossible not to, and that's not to criticize you, but I think it'd be impossible not to.
There are times when I'll see, if I do come across on television or certain things, I'll get somewhat emotional. But I have friends, like one of my friends was in the building, and he made it out, a cop that was down there that day. And, like we've had conversations because I've listened to his radio transmissions where he was with firemen and civilians trapped on a floor, like, 20 some odd floors up. And and he was real cool and real calm about it. And it was, to listen to that and then to talk to him because, the people that I know that didn't make it.
Yeah.
And, it's wild.
So what does it entail? Like you said, you fill out this questionnaire.
Yeah, they ask all those questions, and then they'll a lot of psychological stuff. Do you still have issues with this? Does this trigger stuff? And and I answer no to all that, and then you go through the physical stuff, and the physical stuff is really the hardest part at this point. Is the not knowing, especially with so many people that are getting sick on a daily basis. Like when you do scroll through Facebook the rest of the year, and being friends with cops and firemen and everybody, how many people I've known. Like that guy Alvarez, he worked upstairs in my building in the bomb squad. We would be in the gym together. We would do things, and to see him like that is just.
I've known over the course of the years, just from knowing you've constantly been telling me over the course of the years, all these people that, oh, this guy just got cancer. This guy's got this guy. And then, like you said, not knowing.
Yeah.
It's like getting poked with a fucking needle, and now you got to take an AIDS test every fucking.
Yeah, well, and I think people don't, around the country, if they haven't been here, they don't realize how big those buildings were and how compact this area really is.
Yeah, it's like just there's so much. Look at that. Look at that shit back there. Those buildings fell down in that.
But those
you're not
buildings
able to
hovered.
clear out everybody in that radius.
Yeah.
They're just there. They live there. They work there.
But they hovered way above those,
Yeah.
It's
Oh,
it
fuck
came
yeah.
down and it was trapped inside basically with all the buildings around it. I mean, that's.
Yeah.
I didn't get the gravity of it until I came to New York, like as an adult, and I saw the monument. And you're like, Jesus Christ, this is really insane.
It looked like something out of a monster movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
It was like the wreckage afterwards, because I would drive past when I was allowed to go through the tunnel. I'd be on the West Side Highway right after that, literally drive right past what happened. And the buildings around it had scars in it. Like it looked like Godzilla had gone down the side of a building, and the overpass that goes over the West Side Highway was just banged up and ripped, and you couldn't imagine that something like that could happen here. I think it changed us as a country so much on that one day. Our country and our culture and everything changes over time. And a decade later, you could look back 10 years and go, yeah, I guess we did this over that amount of time. You could look at one fucking day that changed the direction and mindset of this country. We were invincible before that. I don't think anyone thought that could ever really happen. We had this preconceived notion that we were safe, that our military and CIA and everyone had guns on rooftops if anything like that happened. And then we just realized, oh, no, we're really just fucking vulnerable as anyone.
Well, they might have had intel.
Maybe. Again, who the fuck knows? But
Yeah, and driving in and seeing the jets, the fighter jets around the city and stuff. That was pretty wild.
that just the absence of planes in the air afterwards when they grounded all the planes, and so fucking quiet. You don't realize how used to the planes flying over you get, and then just nothingness. The sky was clear, and really just a real punch in the fucking gut.
How would you guys describe the attitude of everyone in New York for like the next couple months? Was it better, worse? Paranoia?
With each other, I guess we
It was
were a
pretty
lot more
good. There was a lot
tolerant.
more camaraderie.
Yeah.
It
And
seemed the country had a bit of it.
I'll tell you what, where we were.
Lasted for 10 minutes.
Yeah, I'm glad we all came together now.
Yeah. The amount of law enforcement that came, like we were assigned, they sent people from Miami and around Miami came to help out. So they came to the 6th precinct, and we had like 4-star chiefs and stuff, and they didn't know what to do with all these people.
Right.
So they would put us out on patrol with them when we weren't down at 9/11 at the World Trade. They would say, "All right, well, you can go out on patrol with them," and we would take their cars because they were much nicer than NYPD cars. But I would go out on patrol with like some 4-star chief from some little shit county down in Miami, and it would be funny. Like we'd have a good time, and we chased a guy on a robbery, and a guy from Miami was driving the car, and we drove the wrong way on 7th Avenue, and we jumped out, we chased the guy down, we tackled the guy, we had him on the ground, and he was cuffing him, and he looked up at me, and he goes, "This is the greatest day of my life."
Holy shit.
And I was like, all right, well, it's just like a Wednesday. It's like a Wednesday, but he thought it was great. And, they wanted to eat pizza, they wanted to eat hot dogs, and they wanted to go on hot runs and chase people down. And
Wow, that's fucking hilarious.
I wish I stayed in touch with those guys because, we spent a lot of time with them, but we didn't, I don't remember their names or anything. I'm sure I have it written in my memo book or whatever, but.
That's something. That's, because I guess they didn't get to do that. But that's another thing you don't realize. Are you guys, all this that was going on the 11th, on the 11th and the subsequent days and weeks that followed, there's still law enforcement in New York. You have to still go on these fucking dumb calls that people make about shit that means nothing, or, some dummy robbing someplace. You still had to be a cop.
I'm sure the lines were blowing up too, like you guys didn't know was happening. Like, I think a plane went into. Yeah, we know.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I think we know that.
Lit up though.
Oh, but back to the public. So there were women that lived in the village, housewives and stuff like that, that came to our precinct for months, like 2 or 3 months, and they came and we had a kitchen in there. They actually paid to redo the kitchen. They had it remodeled, and they came and they cooked. Like,
Oh, wow.
Every day they were there, and they cooked like breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and then it slowed down, went to lunch, and then just dinner. But they were there, and like the commanding officer said, "Yeah, you have to stop showing up," and they told them no. They're like, "No, we're going to keep coming."
Wow.
And they were it was really nice, and we invited them to our parties and stuff. But the general attitude was great.
It was an amazing time where people supported the emergency service workers. The lines of people on either side of the West Side Highway cheering the fire guys and the cops as they drove back and forth was astounding. And you look 18 years later, relatively speaking, it could be a lot of time, it could be a little bit of time in people's lives, but regardless of what it is, 18 years later, we got people throwing shit at the cops and the firemen we just recently had a fire here in New York City where the cops were trying to clear the way so the firemen could get in and do their job, and the cops were being pelted with shit, having things thrown at them, and it's like it's hard to remember that and then see where we've gotten to 18 years later.
When a celebrity has to, go to court for people to get decent medical care for the first responders.
Yeah, that's another fucking
And then we get upset when they sue Iran, who are responsible. It's
had a little
shitty.
hand in it.
Yeah, I mean, it's the reality of it. It's a shame that we're doing that to the people that protected us on that day and tried to help those people.
Yeah.
I think as much as that's a horrible day and what it went through and everything. I think I was a cop in New York City, probably in the best time to be a cop.
Yeah, I think you're right.
And there are certain times, like as much as that was horrible, to do that with everybody, I have that in my memories. Things that you don't realize, like Times Square doing, like New Year's Eve in Times Square.
Yeah.
I remember I didn't do 1999, which I wish I did, but like when you would stand there, and when that ball dropped, and you would stand there, and you would look around, as a cop, not as a person. Like you're there 10 hours in a pen, you got to piss in a bottle. That's that's unbelievable.
People with catheters and shit.
Yeah, but to be in a pathway the size of this studio or whatever, and to be able to walk around and then look, like when it hits and you stop and you look, and you're like, wow, this is. Everybody in the world wants to be here.
Be here right now, yeah.
And I got to do it probably half a dozen times. And whether it was freezing or whatever it was, I still enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Being a cop here was a lot of fun. I feel for these guys now. It's horrible.
I can't imagine the lack of respect and support. Any of these fucking tweets today that come from the mayor's office or de Blasio's personal Twitter account, it's just like this guy should have his head buried somewhere right now and just shut the fuck up and be ashamed of himself for what he's done to a police department. And he's, words of support and this. He didn't even go to fucking Alvarez's.
No, him or Cuomo. Cuomo was, if I'm not mistaken, Jones Beach. They opened up a zip line park, and he zip lined that day.
Motherfucker, can you even believe this shit?
If I
In fairness, where else could you zip line?
Well, that is true.
Wow, and that's true.
Oh my god.
The only like certain things stand out about that day, and right after that, and was the one time, and I think I told this before, was they would have alerts like if they thought another building was going to fall.
Right.
And there was one that they put out this alert, and everyone just started running, and I was like right there, and you know where the fuck to run, like you just started running. Like it was just mass hysteria, everyone running.
This is how people get crushed.
Yeah.
And we're all running, and I remember it's like one of the few times you ever get that adrenaline like in the back of your head that just throbs so bad. Like I remember I got to the point,
survival adrenaline,
and I was running, and I had hit my phone, and I hit like call to like so somebody would know where I was, and like I remember laying down on the ground, and my back of my head was throbbing, and it was Opie. That was the last person I had spoken to. Like we had been talking, when I was down there, or whatever. And I hit and
brother man.
And I hit the phone. And I was like, who is this? And he's like, it's Opie. And I was like, and I was like laying on the ground. And like I remember the back of my head, and I couldn't even talk. Like,
Oh shit.
and then I was like, "Hey man, I'm sorry. Like, they just put out this thing, and I just wanted to hit send, so like they would know where I was if something
Yeah,
happened."
yeah. Oh,
Is this that day or the?
No, it was probably a couple days after.
Yeah, because people were, I
Yeah,
assume.
this was just the emergency services. This
there were
wasn't-
still buildings, yeah,
Yeah.
they were very unstable. Pieces were coming off of them, so you know
And I
that whole
assume
area.
a lot of
was-
people in big buildings, they probably weren't even allowed to go to work, right?
Oh, yeah, that was all shut down.
I would assume, yeah.
fucking area was Dunsky for a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You would
Yeah.
go up and you would walk in buildings, and it was fucking creepy. Like,
Yeah.
there's no lights or anything, and you would walk up into lobbies and go up and stare, and it was wild.
Just like a science fiction, but it was real.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
All right. Well, I'm gonna go
Well,
do
Keith-
what I do, and
That's fucking, and again, thank
Thank you.
I mean, honestly, because it's
Sincerely.
it's
it-
part of the whole fucking deal that there were guys like you and other civil servants that
yeah.
did an amazing thing.
Like I said,
that
it's
day.
just it's your job,
Yeah.
and that was really my only. And it goes for everything. And the same thing now. Look, I've been a fireman for 30 years, and when you're going to something like a house fire or something that's legitimate, like you don't think about the danger. You just think about what your job is and what you have to do.
That's that mindset that you need to be able to even do that.
Yeah.
Which,
And then look, there's been times I've come out of fires and been like, "Fuck, man, no, what were we doing in there?" Or,
that was fucking dangerous.
But that's just your mindset when you train for that stuff and you do that sort of first responder thing. It's just
I know exactly what you're talking about because I was talking to these guys, and when I play Sim City, sometimes one of the buildings goes on fire, and I'm just freaking out. Like, it took a while to build this thing, and now I'm trying to put it out, so don't even tell me about it. I understand.
I'm from Detroit. I'm unfamiliar with fires. And buildings.
Is anything left to burn there? Jesus.
all right. Let's get
Thank you, Keith.
our guests in and do what we got.
Yes.